push the button.
Aha,
There you go.
there we go.
If you don't push the button, we don't record
Oh, I
anything.
thought that story was cool about my Star Wars shirt.
well-
Never mind.
Well,
Never mind.
you know, I never thought about that, and I've ruined a lot of shirts because
You dry them.
I dry them and I forget that they're screen printed.
Yeah, I guess just wash them in cold water.
Yep.
And hang them out to dry. Don't dry them in a dryer.
My Star Wars shirt that I have is not screen printed. I also wash my shirts inside out to try and preserve
Yep,
them
I
a
heard
little
that
bit
too,
too. Yeah, every little bit helps, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's survivorship bias, but
Some of them are actually now designed to almost look kind of faded already, and I like those because it gets more faded. It actually just looks better.
okay.
My husband has one of the Goonies that's like that. It's kind of like a faded Goonies logo when we first bought it, and of course it's kind of faded a bit more over time, but it still looks good.
Cool. So before we get going with storytelling on the plains, I made a little note. I watched the video yesterday about. I don't even know how I stumbled upon it. It was a day of watch this video and then this video and then this video, and I have recommendations turned off and history turned off on YouTube. So just random things, will show up on the sidebar because it doesn't, it can't
doesn't
read
know what
it.
to
Yeah,
like.
yeah. So there was this video, and I skipped to another video about I watched like 3 videos on the same topic, but I guess YouTube is starting to AI upscale people's videos, particularly on their shorts, and it's not an AI fake because it was actually a video that was done, but these content creators are starting to complain about the fact that why are you doing this? And
without their consent.
yeah,
'Cause they should be able, I don't know. I don't think that should be a thing.
I agree.
Yeah.
And if you want to artificially upscale your video, that should be your decision, not just something that's
Yeah.
been done.
I understand if you yourself want to do it, and I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
I think you should just be creative. There's a lot of YouTube creators now that now that you said that, I'm starting to see why they give the disclaimer that no AI was used in the making of this film. Mm-hmm. So maybe that way, if there is, they can catch it.
Yeah.
Because I watched a lot of YouTubers that don't have no use for AI.
Yeah.
They don't need it.
Well, this one particular guy was, I don't know, he does something with some teaching guitar, which is why I'm like, where the heck did that come from? And he showed a video clip of Anthony Bourdain talking to, I think it's Phil Beto. I can't remember his first name, Mr. Beto. He's very big in the music industry, and they were having a conversation, and he was like, that doesn't look right. That doesn't look right. And he had seen the video before, so he knew it was a legit video, but YouTube just automatically AI upscaled it. So he went and looked at a couple of his recent videos, and he had the camera zoomed in where he's playing the guitar, and his hands, and right around where the strings, because I'm not a guitarist, but where the strings go over the wood, where it holds them in place.
The frets.
The frets, thank you.
Okay.
Where it goes over the frets, you can see in that particular spot in the video where it's been upscaled. And then he also noticed that his ears were being upscaled, and it's making the video look weird. And the folds in his t-shirt, they did it so it's like not the whole thing, it's just weirdly AI upscaled, and so then it looks fake, but it's not fake because it is what he did, but it got upscaled. And I had written probably 7 months ago now on my blog about how anything that's on my blog is me. Nothing is done with AI. I don't even use AI when I research. I look for myself for things.
Yeah.
Because I also know that AI is not entirely accurate. So if I convey something in our podcast that's inaccurate, it's because I found the source that I thought was accurate, but it wasn't. Not because some AI chucked some stuff in there and messed with stuff. And we don't have video on our podcast. It's just a static picture, and you just get to listen to it on YouTube. So I'm not sure what they could do to that.
They could, though.
Yeah.
They could do something. I guess what's lucky for me personally in my life is it would be very, very hard to replicate me as an author. For one, I'm not an author. And I'm such a horrible writer and have such bad grammar. And I'm dyslexic. If you can't, an AI program that replicated that, you would know. You just think it's broken.
Yeah.
You would never catch me. And anybody that knows me knows it's really me because I'll spell something right 3 times and wrong the 4th time. That's me. So you'll never be able to track that.
Yeah. Or you'll spell it wrong on number 2, but you get 1, 3, and 4 right. It's never completely consistent.
Definitely.
But 3 out of 4 will always be right. It's just a question of which 3. Yeah.
And if AI started using spelling words wrong that I always spell right, then you'd kind of guess, I guess. And then of course my grammar. Where does it begin? Where does it end? I have it. I know how to use it, but most of the time I choose not to, so I don't. So, how are you going to replicate me, AI?
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess they could just copy your voice and just randomly make sentences from it. But,
you'd have to take the AI program and hit it with a hammer. Whack, whack, whack. It's like, okay, it's close enough.
But I was thinking today about how you and I have discussed that we should probably do video along with the podcast, but neither one of us have the time to do that. And then I saw this yesterday and went down a little rabbit hole.
We don't have to. We can just type in GL whatever, Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Make a podcast of us. So using this audio.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would.
Probably would. I mean, almost all scripts that you see on. Well, I think all of them on YouTube are AI generated from the speech, which saves people a lot of time because even though I write all of this out, you're the only one who knows when I stray from what I've actually written. Otherwise, we don't. But I'm sure.
Well, and I don't. And this is. And the funny thing is, when it comes to audio, this has been going on for a while because I believe, if my history is correct, that great speech Winston Churchill does, we should fight upon the mountains, we should fight upon the shores. That's not really Winston Churchill speaking.
Oh, really?
No. That's someone he got, a famous...
An impersonator?
Oh, actually, no, like a radio talk show personality, I think, at the time. Someone who was well known for his voice. And I could be wrong, but I believe that, no, that was not Winston Churchill actually making that great speech by Winston Churchill. He wrote it. But he didn't.
Just someone else gave it. Okay. All right.
So, fact check me, folks, if I'm wrong on that. But I believe if I remember my history teacher saying something to that effect, that it was like he wrote it. So it's like, yes, it's written by Winston Churchill, and you get it. But when you listen to it, it's like, it's like you think that it's him, and you think, oh wow, he was such a great speaker, but he wasn't that good.
I had no idea. You know more about Churchill than I do. Hey folks, Irene here. Connor went ahead and fact-checked himself after we finished recording, and I was in the middle of editing the episode when he texted me to let me know Churchill didn't broadcast the speech, but he did give it to the Houses of Parliament, and the actual recording we hear today was from him, but it was made in 1949 for posterity. So he was kind of right, and, these kind of things happen. Anyway, back to our episode. But getting back to storytelling on the plains.
Getting back to America.
Yeah. So remember when I told you several episodes back about the train wreck? I decided to go ahead and write that episode. Mainly because things like Agate and Fort Robb are taking a very long time to do because they're so multi-part stories that
might just be like a year.
Yeah.
A year in Fort Robb.
Yeah. It's just, I'm trying to chunk off the smaller ones and get us a little ahead so I can have the free time to write those ones that are going to take forever. And then when we start doing them, they're going to take forever because Agate, I already have divided up into 9 episodes. And that's before I start writing, because I might start writing and go, oh, no, this really should be separate. It'll all kind of shift around. So right there, if you've got 9 or 10 episodes, you're pushing into 3 months. Because we only do this weekly. Not doing this daily. If I did it daily, it would be very different. It would be an hour every day of us just bullshitting. So I can't write that much. I used to do that at the Star Herald, and that's too much. So today we're going to talk about a train wreck from 1908. It's an event that has little information, and I have to once again thank the Sheridan County Historical Society for documenting it and putting it up on their website, and to Jerry Penry, who wrote an excellent article about the events that happened on June 25th, 1908. And there was a second part to this story that I'll get to later on. But if this was not on the Sheridan County Historical Society's website, I would not know of this. I doubt anybody else knows of it. And it would just be another train wreck lost to history. And I did go and try and look up on the railway history websites and stuff, and just couldn't find really much information. And I'll get into that too in a little bit. So before we get started, I need to give you a little bit of history about the railroad company that ran this particular train on the night of June 25th. It was the Chicago and Northwestern Railway. North and Western are 2 words here, which was also known as CNW or Northwestern. Just kind of like today, it's the Burlington Northern Railway Company. No, the Burlington, because I forgot the Santa Fe part. See, I already forget, because we just call it BNSF.
Yeah, Burlington Northern Santa Fe.
Yeah. And everybody just calls it BNSF because that's a heck of a lot easier than Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway.
Yeah, and I think maybe when I was a kid, wasn't Northern Burlington still its own line?
I think so. There's been a lot, when I was looking into this, there's been a lot of mergers and changes.
And it doesn't always translate out to the cars themselves, because
Right.
they don't always repaint them to let people know the merger. So I only remember what I saw as a kid on the side of the trains. Mm-hmm. And I could have swore every now and then you'd see the old logos of just Northern Burlington.
Yeah, I think the biggest mergers of all the train lines was like 70s and 80s. So yeah, you would have been a little kid and you would have seen the older trains.
The older trains in the 90s,
because they essentially just use them till they
get
die.
Anyway.
Yeah, they'll just use them till they die, and then you'll get the new logos when they have to buy new cars. But it's just easier to just leave them. It's not a big deal, because you don't just repaint them. They have, each car has a number.
Yep, you get renumbered and respecified.
Yep, and then that all has to go into the system and get recalculated, because they can track each individual car that's on a train. So if something does happen, or if something somehow got lost, they know exactly where in the trail, so to speak, it got lost or damaged or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well, like painter's tape, that's not allowed in the union.
So
it'd be a simple solution, you just painter's tape over the numbers, but whatever.
Yeah. So, according to Wikipedia, the CNW Railway was chartered on June 7th, 1859, 5 days after it purchased the assets of the bankrupt Chicago, St. Paul, and Fond du Lac Railroad. On February 15th, 1865, it merged with the Galena and Chicago Union Railroad, which was have chartered on January 16th, 1836. That's Wikipedia speak. I wouldn't have had the have in there. Anyway, by 1899, the company had rostered 1,380 locomotives, 1,176 passenger cars, and 49,484 freight cars. Potatoes from the West were one of the main crops carried by the CNW, and its potato sheds in Chicago were the nation's largest. It also carried Western sugar beets, which is big to our area out here, and huge amounts of corn and wheat. By 1938, it was 16th on the list of railroads with its operating revenue, but 8th in passenger revenue. It served Chicago commuters. Its 400 streamliners provided intercity transportation, and it provided an eastern link to bring the Union Pacific's passengers from Omaha, Nebraska, and points west of Chicago. The railroad operated more than 5,000 miles or 8,000 kilometers of track at the turn of the 20th century and over 12,000 miles or 19,000 kilometers of track in 7 states before retrenchment in the late 1970s. Until 1972, when the employees purchased the company, it was named the Chicago and Northwestern Railway. I can't talk today, or Chicago and Northwestern Railway Company. So just with those little stats, you can see that this particular railroad was pretty big and served a lot of people. It bought other rail lines before and after the event we're going to talk about today. And while I was researching for more information, which there isn't a lot of out there, I learned that if you're looking for information after 1911 for railroads, the National Archives usually has something on it, but prior to that date, they rarely have anything. And we're coming in at 1908, so the information is scant. Local newspapers are probably your best bet there, which again, I'm glad that the Historical Society saved this story and put it up on their website. And I didn't have any luck with the National Archives when I went and looked, but I didn't expect it anyway. And as you can see just from there, how big the railroad was, and then they just keep merging with other railways. Yeah. So I would imagine that a lot of those cars didn't get repainted either. Maybe the passenger lines, but freight, definitely not.
Freight, no.
Because you just need to know which cars are connected, and if they all have numbers, who cares what else is painted on it.
Well, like I said, they
got
got graffitied.
graffitied.
The graffitis was just awful. Still is.
Yep.
But it's a lot less now that they guard the tracks a lot more.
Yeah. It is still interesting to look at and see.
I personally love it. I love graffiti on railroad cars because you never know where they come from. They can be from anywhere in the United States.
Yep.
So it's
and if you were like a graffiti expert, you probably would know where it came from. That was placed in, St. Louis. That's where those folks are at,
right.
But
when's Bansky going to do on locomotives? I'm waiting for that one. He's done some great ones. I love Bansky. Is that how you pronounce it?
I've always pronounced it Banksy.
Banksy.
I don't know if
Banksy.
there's...
But you know who I'm talking about. He
Yep.
does the black and white. For our audience, he does graffiti. He's a graffiti artist, and he does these really neat black and white with a little bit of color. Very, very interesting things. I think the famous one is the girl was holding a balloon that's a heart or something like that. Something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot of good stuff, and it's just nobody knows who he or she is.
No, but did you see that one I think I talked about, her with the balloon sold at Sotheby's?
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was in a frame that once it's sold, it went through a shredder.
Really?
Yeah. Because of course, again, I assume this was I don't know if this was an original picture from Banksy, because like I say, he's a graffiti artist, and I think this is a picture or a portrait. Maybe it was one of his original. It sold for Sotheby's for millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And once they took it off, it just like it went through a shredder and came out the bottom. It's like, yep, that sounds like it. Or
yep.
her.
Yeah. Yep. Sounds like it. So our story begins in Deadwood, South Dakota, which is a little out of our territory, but the event happened in western Nebraska. So the eastbound train, number 6, was running late on that night. It was supposed to be in Chadron, but it wasn't there yet. Our train, freight number 116, would typically leave the Chadron rail yard right after the number 6. So in case you guys don't know, the trains usually trailed one another. They weren't too far behind each other. Often the same engines get connected to the same lengths, like we know the train's only going to be 10 cars long till it gets to Chadron. Then we need another engine because we're going to add 2 miles of cars.
Those stupid teachers came up with those math questions that you always hate.
Oh,
someone boards a train going this fast, and someone boards a train going this fast. When are they going to get here in this time?
I just accepted those were always going to be wrong for me.
I suppose, though, to be a conductor, you had to really love those questions.
Oh, well, never be a conductor or an engineer. So because number 6 was late, 116 was given permission to pull out of the yard and begin its journey toward the east. And I suspect it was significantly late, because if it was only 5 or 10 minutes late, they probably would have waited. So the 116 was in the middle of 2 other trains. A double-header freight train with locomotive 229 led the way, with number 9 trailing.
So for the audience, what's a double-header?
Usually means you have 2 engines. Sorry. My brain is not turned on and functioning today.
I didn't know I don't know if they know what a double header is. I think most people around here know what a double header freight train is, but
if you're listening in Puerto Rico, you probably very rarely see double header train. It was pulling 30 rail cars of mixed freight, mostly boxcars with lumber from the Black Hills and coal from Wyoming, which they would drop off along the way. So it wasn't they were hauling it all the way to their next destination. Freight can be just like passenger trains. Mm-hmm. Certain freight goes to a certain destination, then you unhook the cars and you keep going. And whereas people, you just push them out of the train and then you keep going.
And they still do that today. Mm-hmm. We have an off car here in Scottsbluff where they'll offshoot cars. And, of course, for the sugar factory, they'll do the beets, but they'll also have another offshoot. I think it's for coal.
Yes.
That they'll go, because you'll hear them in the middle of the night make those awful banging noises that just echo throughout the town.
Yes. Because it's not an exact science, and they don't stop on a dime. So they bang into each other when they go really slow and you're trying to stop them.
Yeah, it sounds weird. It almost sounds like a shotgun blast. It sounds like someone's hunting in the middle of the night, but it's just the railroad cars.
Yep. So engineer James W. Pace was in the lead locomotive with fireman James A. Harris. The second locomotive held engineer Willis A. Graham, along with fireman August Myers and brakeman Fred Ebener. Conductor Walter White and brakeman James L. Greer were at the rear of the train in the caboose. An estimated 10 to 15 tramps also rode the late-night train on the bumpers or couplers, depending.
Tramps.
We'll get back to that in a second. Between the cars. Okay, so I'm going to redo this sentence completely, that's okay, because I was going to try and get to the end and then explain tramps. Tramps are hobos, and I don't know what today's correct term for them are.
Vagabonds.
Yeah.
That's still a polite term, right?
Because I'm trying to find a polite term, but
I think vagabonds isn't.
Yeah.
un-PC'd yet.
And they're basically folks that just hop trains and ride trains around the country. That's kind of how they survive, how they get from place to place. They don't have money to travel from place to place. At the time, I don't even know the stats at the time. Some are homeless, some are not. It just kind of depends on the person. But this article repeatedly uses the term tramps, so I stuck with it so that I didn't have to explain myself every single time I quoted and then took the word out and put something else in. But I don't... Even when I was a kid, we didn't use tramps, and hobos was just like, kind of cringe, but we didn't have a better word at the time.
The 90s Disneyfied it.
Yeah.
You think of tramp, you think of Lady and the Tramp, you think of a dog.
Yeah.
You don't even really think of what the word really means.
Yeah. And a tramp today, is also derogatory toward a woman.
True. Yeah, it is. It does have a sexual connotation that didn't originally have.
But when I'm going to use tramps, I'm quoting from the article, and tramps are just dudes that hop the train to get from one city to the next.
And they were mostly men, right?
Yes. Yeah. And they're, I've seen little bits in different museums around the U.S. where they have everything set out. I know in Lincoln, when I was in college, there was a professor that was doing research on hobo society, and they have their entire markers and sort of very, very basic writing systems. Like you could go near the train tracks and see a certain layout of rocks, and it would tell you what kind of trains were there, what trains were like they knew what trains were coming, whether people on the trains were going to let them chill out in the empty cars or on top of the coal cars, or they know just by these little signs what's going on in each town that they are in. It's a really fascinating society, and I thought it was a real cool study that this dude was doing, and that was like 1989. So I don't know whatever happened to it, but you can go and see the markers that they have, and it's a society within our society.
It is, and it's very hated. Did that guy bring out the tramp chair?
No.
Have you heard of a tramp chair?
No.
So this was used more out east, not probably out, maybe out in California, but I know more of it out east. It was a metal chair that you were strapped into if you were homeless, and you were just meant to sit there, and the chair had all these little bumps that kind of dug into your back. You'd sit there they'd chain you in there for like 24 hours. Very, very cruel. And then they let you go. And then they tell the vagabond, come back, you're going to get the tramp chair again. Or worse.
Wow.
And towns out east, even towns out here, like you were saying about the language, there were towns that there was no tolerance for homeless people at all. There was absolutely no tolerance. That was their way of getting around the law. Because we're not lynching them, we're not killing them. So
we're just giving them a little light torture.
We're just like giving them a welcome to our town thing.
Yeah. Wow. Jerks.
So if you ever look up tramp chair on Google, it's a horrible device because it's all metal.
It sounds like it.
It's like made out of wrought iron. It's all metal.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh my gosh. Well, just like the Chinese water torture. Supposedly, it doesn't sound bad, but try having 36 hours of a drop of water dropping on your forehead like every 2 seconds.
And of course they found the other way, the medieval way, kind of cruel. What did the French used to do? The hovel thing that they put your head and your arms in.
Oh.
And they put you in there. And they lock you
in
up.
The stocks, yeah.
The stockade, yeah.
Yeah.
They put you in a stockade, and they it's like, oh no, America, we're beyond stockade, and besides we have all metal now, so we can make metal chairs.
Technology. So on the train that night, an estimated 10 to 15 tramps also rode the late night train on the bumpers or couplers between the cars, underneath on the truss rods, and a few luckier ones managed to find open doors on boxcars. Nearly every tramp was riding near the front of the train. So remember that for a little bit here in the future, that nearly all of them were on the front of the train. And this is how vagabonds traveled on the trains. The easiest way was on those little couplers that hold one train car to the other. The easiest is to sit on that. Yeah, I mean, it's the easiest to hop onto the train and then I guess maybe move while the trains move. I don't know.
I know trains were slower back then, but still, that's terrifying.
I don't know if I would want to go underneath on the truss rods. That just doesn't sound safe whatsoever. And they were always looking for the open doors on the boxcars because, of course, that's the safest. You're out of the weather. You're inside. You don't have to worry too much unless somebody catches you when the train stops. So when the train slows down, because you don't know what the manifest of the train is, do you hop out then and then try and get back on, or do you hide in a corner and hope nobody sees you? And then if somebody sees you, are they going to just tell you get the heck off the train, or are they going to beat you? It's kind of a crapshoot. So, I mean, if you're just hopping the train to the next town, then yeah, boxcar, you don't really have to worry about anything because you'll just hop off before it comes to a complete stop, and you don't have to worry about anything.
And this really was just people deciding whether they were going to be jerks or not. They didn't care about these people's safety.
No,
they didn't be like, no, don't do this because we don't want you to die. They don't give two F's if you died.
Yep.
They're just like, well, we're just going to be jerks about it.
Yep. So when the train reached Rushville, which is 31.6 miles east of Chadron, the men on the train were told to look out for a heavy storm that was coming from the east. From what I gathered from the article, I don't think they had any kind of communication devices like you would have today to know the storm's coming. It's, I think of like Formula One. Oh, hey, Max, how you doing on your tires? Oh, they're all right. When are we going to go to Inters because it's supposed to rain? Well, we expect the rain in 3 to 4 laps. They have it exactly precise how and when it's going to happen. And these guys basically went 31 miles before they got information that there was going to be a heavy storm coming. And while they were already on that 31-mile stretch, they encountered a brief heavy rain and hail, and they decided to slow down as a precaution, just because they were like, holy crap, this storm came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So we're going to slow down.
The brakes don't work well on wet tracks.
No. 7 miles, so after they left Chadron, 7 miles later, they reached Clinton, where the number 116 car switched a few of its cars. And again, like I said, that happens. I think they went on to the sidetrack to switch a few of the cars, but I'm not sure. And basically, a sidetrack is you're stopped for whatever reason, and there's other trains that still need to go on their journey, so they're on the main line. You've just kind of skirted over to the side, in this case, to switch up a few cars and then get back on the main line and keep going. Still happens today. It's very, very common. So I'm going to read again from the article. There was an eerie feeling as the storm had just passed that location and the air was calm. The sky was clearing and stars were beginning to show through the broken clouds. It had rained for nearly 3 hours straight, and distant lightning illuminated the darkness. The first wave of storms brought rain and hail from the north. Then a second wave of heavy rain and hail came from the south. In Clinton, water was everywhere and some houses were flooded. Windows on both sides of several buildings were broken out by the hail. Many of the town's 100 residents were outside assessing the storm damage as number 116 switched cars on the sidetrack. Yep, see, did they did go on a sidetrack. One tramp named Smith decided to get a quick drink at the local saloon that was not yet closed for the night. Bless you.
Excuse me.
I'm just going to read that again in case anybody missed it.
Sorry.
That's okay. One tramp named Smith decided to get a quick drink at the local saloon that was not yet closed for the night. And this is called foreshadowing. As the train pulled out, this tramp missed catching his previous location at the front of the train as it departed. However, he was able to climb aboard one of the rear cars where a Negro tramp was riding alone. Meanwhile, passenger number 6 departed Chadron and made up time as it traveled east, not far behind the freight. So, Negro is the word used in the description from all the accounts, and in 1908 that was the term for Black Americans. And if you remember as well, number 6 was super late getting into Chadron, so 116 was told to go ahead. Well, now number 6 is headed down the line, so it's a bit of the way behind them. So about 30 minutes had passed, and the number 116 pulled out of Chadron just before 1 a.m. So they spent about a half an hour in Clinton, changing the cars up.
Yeah, switching up cars.
Yeah. So they headed out of Clinton just before 1 a.m., and in the distance, flashes of lightning could be seen. They traveled about 2 miles east of Clinton, where the train picked up speed on the slight downhill slope of the land. The low area ahead had been filled in during the construction of the slope, but with the storm, that was a danger. And we're talking 1908, so it's not surprising what is going to happen here in a few minutes. A short while later, torrents of water mixed with a slurry of hail and debris from adjacent fields had pushed toward the railroad through a swale that was normally dry. Engineer Pace mentioned to Harris that they were going to go right through the center of the storm. Harris shoveled a few more loads of coal into the locomotive. It was their last conversation. So they're expecting the tracks to be okay, to be fine. They're chucking coal in the locomotive because they're going to need power to power through the storm. Mm-hmm. And it's not dissimilar to, like here, in the wintertime, they shovel the snow in the middle of the road. And if I'm on a side road and I need to cross and there's a pile of snow, I floor it so I can plow through that pile of snow. And that's essentially what they were probably thinking of doing, and that's why they chucked more coal in, because they needed to have that power ready when they got to it. As the newly formed river reached the railroad near milepost 365.4, the grade created a dam which caused the water to back up. The lone culvert, with only a 36-inch opening, quickly filled with debris and became blocked. The water, with nowhere else to go, began flowing over the top of the grade. When I lived in New York, there was a very low bridge. I would say there's about 15 feet underneath it where it went over the river. And it was only like a mile from where I lived in Poughkeepsie. And we went down to watch the water one day, and I stood there, and in less than half an hour, that 15 feet of water was filled, because we had already read reports that the drive-in theater was flooded, and that was literally, you had to cross that small little bridge and then drive 50 feet, and you turn right, and you're going into the drive-through theater or drive-in theater. And so we went down to see how bad it was, and the banks had overflowed a little farther down, which is why it got hit first. But then I stood there and I watched, and I swear it was like 23, 24 minutes. That 15 feet was full, and then you couldn't see the road anymore. Wow. It does not take very long in a very big storm for that to happen. Now, granted, this is a river and it, overflowed its banks where I was at, and this was not. But this was a very small, short bridge that you could fit, my guess, maybe 10 cows wide. So it wasn't that big at all.
And floods here in Nebraska are very localized because of how our landscape is, at least out in western Nebraska. I mean, we'll get flooded areas, but like the city as a whole rarely floods.
Yeah.
And usually the flooded areas are low valleys, low banks, where all the water kind of goes into. And again, even that's very, very rare. Last flood that I heard of was in Terrytown, which again is in the low culvert area. And by flood, I think the Terry Lake got to the road.
Yeah.
Which it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody died.
Yeah. And you're looking here, Clinton is just a few miles east of Rushville, so you're already up in the sand hills. So take that kind of land into consideration. It's not your good solid topsoil. It's a different type of land. So I've seen, traveling on Highway 2 back to the eastern part of the state, I've seen sides of roads where you can see little bits that are flooded, but I haven't ever seen it up onto the road.
Seeing like Sioux Falls and Watertown, where my sister-in-law lives, floods all the time. All the time. Half the time I couldn't even get up to go see her because the road I chose was under a lake worth of water, not just a pond. So there was no getting through it. So that happens.
So with no truck ballast to help secure the sandy ground around the rails and ties, the water washed out 50 feet of track around the culvert, as well as a similar length just east of the culvert. So that little culvert that has there's a little tiny bridge there today, but that culvert, about 50 feet on both sides, so you're talking 100 feet. The track was just washed away. These guys have no way of knowing that. And it's 1 a.m. By some estimates, the depth of the washout was 15 feet. So that's a lot. I'm not surviving in 15 feet of water. I can barely swim. I need to swim as best as I can, which is poorly, to the edge to get out. But if you dunk me in the middle, and it's 50 feet wide on each side, I'm probably not going to make it. The rails and ties hung loosely in the air as number 116 approached in darkness, unaware of what lay ahead. So for those of you that don't know what a culvert is, it's a structure that channels water past an obstacle or to a subterranean waterway. Typically embedded so as to be surrounded by soil, a culvert may be made from a pipe, reinforced concrete, or other material. Culverts come in many sizes and shapes, including round, elliptical, flat-bottomed, open-bottomed, pear-shaped, and box-like constructions. The culvert type and shape selection is based on a number of factors, including requirements for hydraulic performances, limitations on upstream water surface elevation, and roadway embankment height. That is today. In 1908, it wasn't as precise and detailed as this.
It was a ditch.
It was essentially a ditch and just a way to channel stuff away from where you need to be. It is much more precise today. So I did try and go find the culvert in that area, but I was not successful. It's also 117 years later, and although the landscape hasn't changed a whole lot, it has changed enough that I didn't see it. And I eventually did find it, but we're going to talk about that in part 2. But I would also encourage folks to, if you want to learn more about the railroad, the CNW, I think Wikipedia's page is excellent. I know people still have that.
You're promoting Wikipedia.
Yeah.
What?
I know people still hate Wikipedia, but I have found. Now I can't say for your hard science stuff because they'll state something in hard science, and there's a reference to it, but the reference is more hard science that I don't understand. But the general stuff, like the history of this particular railroad and how it worked and how all these other railroads merged, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, you probably already read Wikipedia's page on it, but I found it pretty fascinating, and I do always check the sources. So if there's a quote and there's a source from it, I try and go to the original source where they got it from. And a lot of times,
imagine that in this AI world,
yeah,
we're all going to be going to Wikipedia, the one place we were told never to go to find out where the truth is.
Oh, and I think it was just people. I think the whole thing with Wikipedia personally has always been overblown. When I moved to town here and started working in the public school system, I fought with teachers about Wikipedia because they just know it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong. All of those teachers grew up like I did, and some of them were the generation before me that they were all like tail end boomers. You get your encyclopedia.
Yeah, you get your sources.
And it stays that way, and it doesn't ever get updated. And sometimes things could be wrong in encyclopedia, or it might be outdated. Your mom may have a set of encyclopedias from 1977, and it's 1982. And so some of the information is outdated. So I think that's where that whole pushback came from, is they thought Wikipedia was the same thing. And Wikipedia was always, no, if you're going to cite it, cite your source, so that if your source becomes wrong, we can change it.
Well, also, I think it is what AI, going back to AI, what AI is now to college teachers, it's lazy. Mm-hmm. It was considered lazy.
Yeah.
You weren't, when Wikipedia first came up in the 90s and I was a kid, it's like, yeah, I could just type it in. It'd tell me everything I need to know and give me the sources, and I turn it in. And whether it was wrong or whether it was right didn't matter. If they found it on Wikipedia, they didn't like that laziness aspect to it. At least I think that was the main part of my teachers.
Okay. The teachers I had, they were all complaining that the information was inaccurate.
They would say some of it was accurate, but I sniff a little hypocrisy there, because I doubt that those teachers truly dug into 20, 30, 40 different kids' individual work and reference every source and make sure it's right. I doubt that.
Yeah.
I think more it's just like you're mad. You want to be a teacher that teaches kids. And I, like you said, I learned this way of doing things. We went to the library, and in the 90s, the libraries were getting defunded all the time. And they didn't like that either. Teachers hated that. So Wikipedia was a threat, I think, to them, to the library system, to the school system, just like ChatGPT is now.
And I personally found it from the get-go, I found it a wealth of information that I used as a starting point to jump off somewhere else. Now, for a definition of a culvert, I'm not going to go read 16 scientific books about it. I am going to go to Wikipedia because they've summed it up in 2 paragraphs, what a culvert is and what it looks like. And that's what I just quoted to you, because we don't need to go into detail. Yeah. We just want to give a brief, hey, this is what a culvert is, this is what it looks like.
It, or you want to know about what kind of ice cream they have.
Yeah.
This is one or the other.
Yeah. So back to our story. The men on the train can't really see in the complete darkness. And if you live in a big city, I don't know if you've ever experienced complete darkness or not. I have. I have been out far enough in the boonies. It's something to see. And at the Sundance that I was at, I was not too far from this area. I was maybe 40 miles west of this area. I was a little closer to Chadron. But anyway, it was out in the middle of nowhere. There's no lights. There's no No one's even using flashlights. You're using the moonlight. And I can tell you, men dancing at 11:45 p.m. in the dark is quite the experience compared to if they had lights spotlighted on them. So, it's they're only seeing the track ahead of them, and it's not that far in front of them. And even if it's 50 feet in front of them, by the time they see there's no track,
Yeah. Well, and was it even a full moon?
Connor, I did not do that much research.
No. When you went to the Sundance.
Oh, to the Sundance, yes.
It was a full moon.
Yeah. So the sky was lit up pretty good.
Well in a full moon out in the middle of it. Once your eyes adjust.
And your eyes gradually adjusted because we started at about, they started at sunup. I got there about 10 a.m. So I'm in the sun all day and it gradually got darker. So my eyes gradually adjusted. And you can see quite a bit, but how much? Especially when you're driving a locomotive with 30 train cars behind you.
Yeah, and like we said, we didn't know if there was a moon out, and even if there was, it probably didn't matter because it's probably still cloudy.
Yeah, you never know. It's also the middle of the summer, so it could be cloudy. It could not be cloudy. I didn't even think to look. See, you just put another thought in my head now that every time I do a story, I'm going to be like, what did the moon look like at that point in time in history? And it's still to this day, there are parts of the Panhandle that are like that. So the lead locomotive plunges into the washout and hits the embankment. The trailing locomotive goes into the first locomotive in what the article describes as telescoping into it. Y'all know how the telescope works, right? Your old style telescopes, they expanded out. So your train cars are basically there's one that hits the lead locomotive, hits the embankment and goes into the washout and hits the embankment, and then basically the trailing locomotive just goes right into it and then just splits. You know how you open those old telescopes, just right into it. So you remember the tramps on the train, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The 13 boxcars where most of them was smashed into and around the locomotives, one right after another. So there's no one hit the brakes. They went right into this washout, and it just keeps coming. Quite a few of the wooden boxcars were splintered into pieces, causing coal to go everywhere into piles, including burying some of the men. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Other cars were almost completely submerged into the water and a layer of ice from the hail. So there was so much hail. There was a huge layer, and it was reported that there was a few feet deep of hail floating on top of the water. So you got 15 feet of water that they're falling into, and then a few feet on top of that of hail. And I've seen some nasty hailstorms out here.
Oh yeah.
And that is entirely plausible and believable. I've seen it happen.
Especially if you go right after, which I always did as a kid. Right after the hailstorm stopped, we all went outside. We wanted to see how much damage happened and see the hail and see how big it was. So, and of course, the streets by then are usually flooded. So then you'll see the hail just floating. There's like a bunch of golf balls floating down the street. Yeah. So it's totally 3 feet of that.
Yep. And
that'd be terrifying.
Yeah. And if you want to go to Google Maps and look at the intersection of Sugar Factory Road and East Overland, which right there it intersects at the sugar factory. I took a photograph one time. I was coming back from covering a story for the paper, and it was pouring like crazy. And I'm at the stop sign heading west back toward the paper. So the sugar factory is right there on my left at the stop sign. And there are guys pushing a car through the intersection to get that, because at the intersection it was flooded. Mm-hmm. And it was up. I could barely see the top of the rim of the car. And there was no one behind me. So I took a few pictures. I ended up winning an award for it. I got second place in the Nebraska Press Association for the picture. I backed up about 20 feet, and I have a 5-speed. I put it in first gear, and I did not take it out of first gear. I floored through that intersection, and at the time, I had a little Hyundai Accent. It was a 2000 Accent, and the water was probably above the rim on my car. So that's already, 2 feet of water? And I was like, please keep going. Please keep going. I also hadn't completely familiarized myself with the area, that there were other places I could go around. I could have just backed up and went back and took a different route, but that's the most direct route to the paper. And my brain panicked a little bit, but I made it through it. So that was a little harrowing for me. I can't imagine 15 feet of water and 3 feet of ice on top of that.
In the middle of the night.
Yeah. I lost my place again. See what happens when I look up and I talk to you, Connor. So the field next to the track was said to be a lake about 3 to 4 feet deep, with only the tops of fence posts being able to be seen. Mm-hmm. So for all of you who have seen fence posts, you know roughly how tall they are. Now imagine just being able to see the tops. Mm-hmm. That happened in 1999. There was like we now have once in a century storms all the dang time. But I was in Paris in 1999, and there are places where you can walk down along the river, and you couldn't even see in some places the signs, because there are places where you can drive down along the river and some places where you can't. So there's signs that say, no cars, and the little circle. It's a blue background with a red circle and a red X through it. And I remember just being able to see the tip of the curve of that sign, because it had flooded. The rains were so bad and flooded so bad there. And that's my best description of about 15 feet full of water, is if you ever see pictures like that of people walking along the Seine in Paris, just imagine all of that's gone and it's covered with water. And that's what these guys literally just drove into. And that's where we're going to stop for today. If you guys come back for part 2, you will get to hear about the gruesome task of recovery and rescue, and we will get back to that in our next episode. So for today, I'm Irene.
And I'm Connor.
And this is Storytelling